and welcome to the Everyday Board Game Podcast with your host, Daniel.
And Daniel.
Daniel, we are back-to-back right now with episodes.
No, we're not.
Well, I mean, face-to-face, you and I. But as far as our episodes, so viewers who watch us live, this is why you gotta follow us on Twitch. Because we just did a jump in our schedule all of a sudden. We filmed yesterday. We filmed the Chits and Giggles. Compare and contrast.
Yes.
Splendor versus
Century
Spice Road. And, we arranged something and things happened where now we're filming an episode again today. Because we are advancing our schedule because next week we're going to be having hopefully a special guest on the podcast. So
yeah,
and
for our audio listeners or stuff like that, you'll hear that more than likely within the same week.
Yeah, exactly. So we're looking forward to that. We'll announce more details later. So stay tuned. Again, follow us, subscribe to us, whatever you got to do, so you can get notified when we have that information because we're very excited about it. With that being said, we figured, well, let's just jump straight into this episode.
Yeah, I got nothing going on today. You were like, I got to encourage my wife to do stuff, so.
Yep. Like, I'm willing to do it. Let's jump right in. So, also, before we get into today's episode, we do want to give you a reminder. This is the 4th week in our giveaway. Even though we were going to give this code word out next week, audio listeners will be able to listen to it no problem. And again, this is why you got to listen to us live. We'll still give it extra time, so that way people are aware of the code word. We're not.
I don't know why you're jumping ahead of everything. I've already said it ends on January 31st.
Right. No, that's what I'm saying. No. What I mean though is that we weren't gonna wait a week after the next episode, because we jumped this ahead. We're not gonna wait another.
We're not
week.
Gonna give a code word in the special episode that's gonna happen after this.
Exactly.
The last code word will happen in this episode. The drawing will take place February 1st. You'll be notified probably. You guys will be notified who wins it early on.
Yep.
We probably won't let the announcement of who the winners were till probably about the 3rd episode of February. This way it gives time for contacts and that sort of thing. So you're jumping ahead. You're getting scatterbrained.
What I'm saying, though, is that they still have just as much time, even though we jumped today's episode ahead.
Because the code word, other than our live audience here...
Yeah.
Doesn't really matter for the YouTube or the audio podcast.
Right, it'll still come out at the same time, right?
Yes.
I just gotta say, that's
you don't have to say that.
I gotta say.
No,
for
you don't.
my own reassurance. That's how I
do it.
You can tell he's dealt with me for 2 days in a row.
Well, not just that. We had this discussion before we started. I'm like, nothing's changing on this one. We're just not giving a code word for the next episode.
Fair.
Because it's a bonus episode.
That's right. More or less.
Outside the cycle.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry about that. I don't know what's going on with the camera.
So we just got word that we're having some troubleshooting. So we'll take a look at that here in a minute. But let's get into talking a little bit about today's episode. What are we talking about today?
Today we're doing a board game brainstorm of Tiny Epic Galaxies. The reason we decided this game, for one thing here, is also it's 2025, and our rule is 10 years.
10 years or more, yeah.
So why not start the year with something that just turned 10 years?
Exactly.
So it's kind of cool. And then when you saw that one, you're like, I want to do that. And I'm like, okay.
Yep.
That's fine.
Yeah, there was no argument there.
So,
and even then, because we planned this about a month ago, which game, or maybe 2 months ago, that we were going to be able to use this game as our main breakdown, or brainstorm. And I texted you today, I was like, all right, let me just double check what's our episode today. And you said brainstorm. Cool. 5 minutes later, I was like, there's my list. I already got this. This was easy for me, myself. You said it was a little bit more difficult.
A little bit more difficult because I was trying to, not just do all space or and stuff like that. And I finally decided, you know what, screw it. These are the recommendations I'm going to go with because this game, Tiny Epic Galaxies, really feels like a 4X game, very pared down, and you're not getting 2 of the X's per se. You're not exterminating, and you're not you're exploiting. Basically, you're trying to gather resources, and you're trying to explore that kind of thing. That's all the 2 X's you're getting.
There's no exterminating.
And exterminating. I can't remember what the other one is.
There's expand, exploit, expand, explore, exploit, exterminate. So, I would say we're doing all that stuff. You're expanding, you're exploring, you're using the abilities of the planets.
Yeah.
You're exploiting it for its benefit. Yeah, but the only one is not exterminate.
Exterminating.
Right?
You're not going to combat with the other players.
Yeah.
The only one really is it's a race to colonizing a planet. That's about it. In fact, I had to actually watch it played for it just to get a refresh because I have not played this game in probably 4 or 5 years.
That's fair. That's
so
fair.
I'm like, okay, let me just get a refresher because I remember the game. I could actually review the game after watching that refresher and be like, okay, now I remember everything about this.
Exactly.
So yeah, no, but it was a bit tough. I finally decided, my parameters that I was trying to do is I wanted to do like a small footprint style game. I don't want to go out of the way and stuff like that. So I finally just decided, you know what? Screw it. This is what it is. These are the recommendations I'm getting because when it comes down to it, it is the distilled version of a 4X game.
Yeah.
And if you're playing it at a higher player counts, it's still going to take a while. It's not a short game by any means. You can play it relatively quickly with 3 players.
30 minutes to an hour, maybe.
I've played 5 players with this, and it's taken an hour and a half to 2 hours. So, because
you shouldn't play that many.
yeah, no, that's the thing. But it plays up to 5 players. So, I've played it with every player count but the solo. The only one I haven't done is solo. I've done 2, I've done 3, I've done 4. 4 takes a little bit too. So,
yeah.
So that's why I was like,
that was also made back in the day where I think the original was 2 to 5. I think they reprinted it with a solo thing.
Yeah.
Or the expansion came with a solo. Either way,
you can get solo though.
Yeah, it wasn't originally intended to be 10 years ago, back in the good old days. Every game didn't have to have a solo mode. All right?
No.
Nowadays, every game has to have a solo mode. Back in the day, you did.
I get it nowadays why people need the solo modes in games. For the simple reason, what did we go through 5 years ago?
Right, exactly.
And so a lot of people needed that solo mode because they realized, hey, I can still game without having to get through a group. And so for people who are new parents and stuff like that, still allows them to get some sort of gaming. And Tiny Epic lends itself to perfect solo modes because it doesn't have a large footprint.
Very much so, yep. Cool, so we'll be breaking down brainstorming Tiny Epic Galaxies and giving you some recommendations.
His brain is broken down because he's not used to this.
No, I'm not used to double whammy of episodes. But before we've been doing that, let's talk about what we've been doing outside of gaming.
All right, so the one thing I'm going to talk about, I've talked about it before, but this is a very big season for my sports watching. I am a huge college football guy. This is the bowl season, as we call it. They're having the college football playoff going on. I've been playing a lot of the video game as well, because that just recently came out back in June. But yeah, it's been really fun, and especially since my NFL team sucks so bad, they're the worst team in the league and got the number 1 pick. So it's been nice to watch actual college football in my team that I root for doing very successful. I'm a big Notre Dame fan because my dad was a Notre Dame fan, and so I've been watching them since late 80s, early 90s, and because they're always on NBC, so when we didn't have cable, I could still watch those games. Yep. So they've been in the college football playoff, which started it started in December because the first round, so they had to play in that round. Then the big game started on New Year's Eve and New Year's Day. And now, last week, they just did the semifinals because I'm loving this 12-team playoffs because just been a lot of good games and some really boring games. Like, I'm afraid for my Irish because they're going up against a team that has beat every single team in this playoff by 2 touchdowns at most. So, like, the team that everybody thought was going to do well against them, Oregon, who beat them earlier in the year, they boat raced them like bad. They were up like 34-0 at halftime. So it's been a fun season so far for me. I've watched every single bowl game practically. I almost went to our local bowl here, the Sun Bowl, but my wife, we had just gotten back from the Denver trip, the Colorado trip for Christmas, and we're like, we don't want to drive to another 40 minutes down there, try to find parking, go to this football game in this little wind chill. I mean, it was warm, but we had a bit of a wind chill, especially since the bowl is cut in a mountain. But yeah, it's been very fun watching these games going on. I've actually done okay with my picks for the bowls. I always do that as well. When the bowls get announced, I pick games. I got a winning record right now. I'm guaranteed a winning record no matter what, but I could have done better. But it is what it is, especially now with the days of opt-outs and stuff like that. But honestly, that's all I've been doing is watching college football.
So, what I've been doing lately, you brought up El Paso earlier. You know, that's the local Sun Bowl. There's no no hiding it. We live in southern New Mexico. You know, we're close by El Paso,
Mm-hmm.
and one of the best things, like when my kids were first born, you know, a number of years ago, many years ago, you know, it's hard to get around, but we train them for really to handle two things well. Is I train my kids to be really comfortable in cars, you know, because we drive around a lot, and to be really good in restaurants. That was the two things that they
Okay,
were
the
really...
way you were describing this at first, I'm like, what are you training them like they're dogs? What's
No,
going
no. I'm saying like you know how like sometimes you go to restaurants and the
I'm
kids
very
are
familiar with
flipping
that.
out
Yeah.
because they
I had
just
a friend
have never
whose
been. It's such a novelty for them.
young daughter throw her shoe at her face, and I was trying my best not to laugh because it was upsetting, but it's just like,
yeah.
But
like,
I get what you're mean.
I knew that like going into it that I was not gonna let my kids find eating out and going in cars to be a novelty. I want them to be comfortable with that.
Yeah.
Because I was eating out a lot back then too, and so I, from their youngest ages, you know, we go to restaurants fairly regularly.
Mm-hmm.
Well, around here, there's only about 200 restaurants, and
about 75% of them are Mexican.
yeah, right, exactly. And don't get me wrong, Mexican food,
fantastic,
great stuff, right?
Yeah.
But like that doesn't mean like 3/4 of my week I want to be eating Mexican food, right? Yeah. I want some variety. So I've been taking it to go to El Paso quite a bit. And we've been going to eat at restaurants, you know, ever since the holiday season. We ate at Great American Steakhouse. I've eaten at Panera Bread since then.
Great American, is that the one in Fabens, or is that the other one
That's the one in Anthony.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, right off of the pass. But there's also a whole bunch of others, too.
Well, there's another one that's right over by where my grandma lives in the Northeast. So.
Yeah. And it might also be a steak burger, but it's still Great American either way.
Yeah. No, but it's the full restaurant.
Yeah. Oh, cool. Yeah. I like that place a lot. When we used to have one here in town, that was one of my favorite places to go. Man, I miss it.
It's fairly good. I can get that kind of cut, like the stuff that they have.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Elsewhere better.
Yeah, but I also don't like cooking. So,
no, I'm not talking about that. I don't like their sides. That's my issue.
Sure.
I'm not a fan of their sides.
Actually, their mac and cheese is banging.
I don't do carbs. I don't like coleslaw.
I know.
Their coleslaw. I don't like their coleslaw because it's sweet. I'm not a fan of sweet.
It's very sweet from what I understand.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I'm not a fan of coleslaw anyway, but everybody else who eats it, like in my family, like they love how sweet it is. My dad would eat it by the spoonful.
Oh,
like,
no,
he loved
I can't. No.
Yeah. But anyway, so there's that. You know, there's the newest Panera Bread that opened up nearby us. There's not one in town, so I got to go there, and I do enjoy Panera Bread myself. I get why you don't like it, but I like it. You know,
well, it got hyped up to us when we went to go do it at that one time in Tucson. It was very disappointing.
Yeah, it's you know, it's fine. It's fine. It ain't no Guadalajara. Let's be real.
Oh, that was really
that was amazing.
Yeah,
but if you're ever in Tucson on an evening, get their tableside salsa. Anyway, but making myself hungry here talking about this. But so we've been going to just a whole slew of restaurants in there. And one of my favorite things is this last Sunday, I normally hang out with my mom on Sundays and spend time with the family. Well, unfortunately, she was sick. So me and my wife and my kids were just driving around. Like, well, where should we go get dinner? And we just like look at the watch. It's like 5 p.m. Let's go get some ramen in El Paso. And just on a whim, we could just drive to a different state and eat at one of our favorite ramen places. So we did, you know, and it's just so enjoyable to be able to do that because now my kids are both trained very well at being in cars for a long time and you know, eating at restaurants. They're both very good restaurant goers.
Your family is totally different than me and my wife.
Yeah.
We're Door Dashers. We love
I hate going to DoorDash so much.
No,
with a passion.
I hate my wife travels all the time, so she doesn't want to leave the house. So that's why we do DoorDash.
No, I get it. I get why she doesn't. It's just
she's like,
my wife orders DoorDash like to work from sometimes because she can't really leave, and I'm like. I hate the idea of not only paying extra for food because you have to have it carry out, but paying extra for the delivery driver on like for you know, the tip and stuff because they deserve a tip. Realistically, you know, but paying that much more extra for your food to not even be totally warm, like
I've never had an issue with it.
I can't. I can't do that. I'm also the kind of person that
you can't be home. You're here at my house more than you're at your house.
I'm very rarely home. Yeah, so I'm always up and about everywhere. My home is where I sleep. That's about it, right? You're not wrong. But so I've been going to a lot of restaurants and expanding my horizons as far as restaurants go. There's actually like a Korean fried chicken place over in El Paso now that I tried, and the breading was cool, but
Korean fried chicken's okay. I'm not a huge fan of it.
I didn't like it that much.
It's not as crispy as I would like it.
So I didn't mind the crisp. The crisp was good. The problem I had with it is because I'm used to genetically modified chicken here in the Americas, that everything is like pure white meat, tenders, beautiful, right? They use every part of the chicken. Like they will. You
get fried chicken from a Mexican restaurant, you're gonna get the same thing.
Right. Well, it'll be like dark meat nuggets, and it's for some reason off-putting to me, and so like I couldn't enjoy it as much as I wanted to, because that was one of those surprises,
Yeah.
So anyway, there's so many good restaurants down there. And
There's on the east side, there's a very good, I know you probably won't like it, but Stacy might like it. We went to a steamed bun place for the steamed bun, the bao, the pork belly buns. Oh man, it was really good. I haven't eaten there in a couple years, ever since, I decided to change my diet up and stuff like that. But when we went, it was really good.
Are you able to eat steamed buns now? Or?
Well, I could. It's more about limiting my carbs. So like if I'm going to go high on that, I have to sacrifice carbs for other meals, because I'm trying to keep myself within a 150 and under range with carb totals and stuff like that. So
the reason I asked you about that is because I was just recommended it's a ramen place, but they had specifically my friend who recommended it says about the pork belly bao buns. They're like they have the best bao buns ever, and it's near us. So I'll give you that recommendation later, because I won't vouch for it, not on live, because I haven't eaten there, so I can't verify.
Yeah, no, it's fine. Honestly, I stay away from that sort of stuff like ramen and stuff like that. It's just because it's high salt content too, and I cut back on that.
Much so.
But with that being said, we also are doing something special. We mentioned it in the last podcast. Mm-hmm. We are also adding a different segment here, because we made the announcement last week for our personal news. Mm-hmm. We're adding what we've been playing to this segment as well. Yep. And that's because why?
That's because starting in February, our new February episodes, we're going to be breaking down with a few of our buddies, friends of the podcast, Gamehead Geek, G.A.M.E.R Dom, are joining us to do our top 100 games of all times. They're specifically going to be filming the top 50 with us, and then we'll do the top 100s in later episodes later. 51 through 100.
Yeah. You and me will film separately when we have extra free time to do it. And then I will try to get G.A.M.E.R Dom to stream with us again to do his top 100, and we just react to it. Yep. And Gamehead Geek, I can probably get him over to film just his top 100, and all of that's going to be released on audio and video as well for everybody. Yep. Going to try to stream it live as well, but it's just
make your predictions now, right? Exactly. Start betting on what you think, what great games I'll have on my list, what also great games Daniel will have on his list. Which list you align with more.
Exactly.
I'm not going to say either of ours are better than the others. It depends on the style. Yeah. But if you listen to the podcast and you're like, man, I really like the games Daniel's talking about, well, then you know who you align with.
Or G.A.M.E.R Dom or Gamehead Geek. So we're giving you two more opinions on this one.
That's right.
So that's pretty cool. So
we're growing.
So what we're going to do is we're going to do what we've been playing. But remember, after we do that, before we start our main segment, listen for the code word.
That's right.
All right, starting with me, the first game that I want to talk about of what I've been playing is a game that we kind of talked about. I don't know if we talked about it on the podcast or the after show, but we just were kind of mentioning it. And it's still stuck with me. It was the most recent pick from G.A.M.E.R Dom's picks. We played 3 games that night. Mm-hmm. This is the one that really stood out to me, even though I liked one more so than the rest of them. But this is the one that just stuck in my brain. And the more I go back on it, I think this was probably my game of the night. And this was Valbara.
Yeah.
We also played, and I don't know if this is on your list, we played Harmonies, and we did Tidal Blades 2. Both of those were fine. I like what they did in their own way. But Valbara, I just keep thinking about it. It's so clean. It's so simple. You're basically competing against each other, trying to draft a certain amount of lands for points. And so you're all playing cards out. You all have the same deck. Mm-hmm. And the thing I liked about it is you're playing the cards out, and whatever their number is, you get to use their special abilities. The higher number card that you have, the better chance for you to get what you want because you get to go over there. But their special powers are more powerful as they're further back in the play. Mm-hmm. That's really cool. But my personal favorite thing I liked of this game, and I thought I want to see more games change, is the back of the land decks.
Oh, yeah.
They have the tiebreaker, and it changes every time new ones come up. So whatever's on top is that tiebreaker. So my specific symbol could be the first one, or it could be the last one on the based on who's playing and stuff like that. And it changes almost every round. And you're basically just playing 9 rounds and trying to get as many points by the way the lands score. And I really dug this one. It was fantastic.
Yeah. I agree with you on the back of the land decks. That was really interesting because, like, I've seen that in different systems before, and there's a lot of games that change up turn order or like hierarchy or whatever, and it honestly mostly gets in the way more often than not, right? Whereas this, because of how clean and how forefront it was.
Yeah,
you could look at the back, go, okay, I'm at the back of the list, you're in the front. You and me both want this. There's no chance I have it.
Exactly.
And then you're going to be like, yes! And you can, like, I can go for it, probably for easier than I normally would.
Yeah.
And me, I was like, I'll just jump to whatever else I'm going to get.
What I liked about it, too,
and that worked.
We were sitting there, and we were looking at our cards, like, what am I going to play? And then everybody, all of a sudden, you're looking at your cards, and all you see, all the eyes going, like, what's the tiebreaker? Okay, maybe I need to play something earlier.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm at the back. I might as well just use, like, the number 12 and double my points, whatever card gets left for me.
Yep, exactly.
It was so clean.
It was really neat. I would probably pick up a copy very soon.
So would I, yeah.
Cool. The first one I want to talk about is I've been playing recently. I independently of playing it at the comic shop, I showed them how to play Disney Villainous.
Okay.
But prior to that, I hung out with a friend of mine, and one of which who asked me a number of months ago that he was interested in Villainous. So him and his girlfriend, I showed him how to play it, and I went over to his house to play a couple rounds of Magic, and then right after that, he was like, all right, let's play a game before you go. And the only one he really had was Disney Villainous. So we played the Bigger and Badder's expansion. I played, I forget the character who I played as, but he played as Mad Madam Mim. I know that.
Okay, yeah.
It was Mad Madam Mim, Syndrome, and then the character that I played.
Yeah. I can't remember who the third one is.
I don't remember who the third one is. Yeah, I will figure it out in a bit. But that was a very interesting match. Like, I love Mad Madam Mim. Like, that Sword in the Stone is one of my favorite Disney movies of all time. Actually, it is. You know what? It is my favorite Disney movie. Simple as that. But the way the characters worked, I was right there. I was just about to win, and then he irked out the win right prior to one turn away. And every time I showed that game off at the shop, the same thing. You were one turn away. And they made it so elegant, so concise, that a game that long shouldn't be that close and that asymmetric. It is incredibly balanced how well it is. I'm sure there's a couple little nuances, but overall, like, that game just works so well. I really enjoy Disney Villainous. I own all 24 characters so far, and yeah, I can't wait till more.
Sucker. I own all 24 characters. Plus, I own all the characters for the Star Wars Villainous, and I only have the base game for the Marvel Villainous.
Do you really have all the Disney?
I have all the Disney, yep.
Nice. I found... I need to show you my storage solution. It's actually a really good solution. It uses one of the art crates, and it holds up really well.
Yeah, so I have everything in that box, and then all my extra are on two of the side boxes over here.
Oh, okay. Cool.
But yeah, so I keep it all in the main Villainous box, and then I have it in the side box. You can't really... You can kind of see there's a little hole right above your head. It's because I just packed my newest Star Wars Villainous into its box, so it's still up on the other table over there.
Gotcha. Cool.
All right, so the last game I'm going to talk about is a game that you were recommending, probably one of your favorite games, well, one of your fun games to play, filler games to play from last year. You recommended it to me. I know Gamehead Geek has a copy of it. I finally picked up a copy of it because I had some money lying around or a gift card for Barnes & Noble, so I went and picked up a version of this for myself. Oh, no, it was when they're doing the 30% off.
Oh, yeah.
And this was Flip 7.
Yeah.
We talked about it a little bit on the last podcast when I played it with my other game group, when we played Castle Combo, and we played Hit Me, and we played Stardew Valley. Mm-hmm. So we played this one. and we had a really, really good time with it. It's interesting. I like the concept of it, the little push your luck aspect of it. But what I really enjoyed about it is that pretty much everything. There's 12 12s, there's 1 1, there's 1 0. You got all these little bonus powers and stuff like that. But what I liked about it is when you're done with a round, you actually discard all those cards and they don't get reshuffled until the deck runs out if no one has hit the 200-point threshold. So I like that aspect of it.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, Mario Fanatics just brought up the only reason they avoided Star Wars and Marvel Villainous because they're incompatible with the Disney version. Same reason as mine. If they were compatible, and I get why they're not, but if they were, I would be.
They
buying
do their own thing, and the only reason I went for those, it's one of those things. It's more of a pick your poison. So I have a bunch of friends who are different nerds.
Yeah.
So there's Disney nerds, there's Marvel nerds, there's Star Wars nerds. Well, pick your poison on this one, and see how it goes. That's why I have it, and that's why I have multiple versions of Thanos Rising. I have Darkseid Rising too. So
exactly. But yeah, going back to Flip 7 though, the op really did a good job with this one.
Good card stock. Really ridiculous sized box.
Yeah, ridiculous sized box. Yeah, it's way too big, but it is what it is. You got to sell it off the shelf, and I love how it says it's called the greatest card game of all time, not the world's greatest card game. It's not.
It's fun.
For saying it, like there's nothing wrong with bolstering yourself. I think that's pretty fun, and the game works well. Press Your Luck is a really fun mechanism, and it just works really well. It pops too.
Yeah, it's really so. We had 2 Press Your Luck games last game.
We did, yeah. Yeah, that's awesome. And my last game I want to talk about was a weird game. So one of the things, as I talked about when I go to restaurants, is I like to bring like a small little game, and I'll try to play with my kids, and we'll just play it like while we're waiting for our food or whatever. So I tend to bring like some pretty small games.
You force them to play games,
absolutely,
because they want to play on their phones instead.
Oh, absolutely. But at least this time I got like FaceTime and get to hang out with them. So I force them to play games, or threaten I don't order them dinner. So that's not true, by the way.
Oh my God, we're gonna get CPS called on us.
I know, right? No, my kids are great about that. And so I just try to bring like every once in a while, I'll just bring like a little game. And there was one that I got from a garage sale many, many years ago that I was like, okay, it looks kind of funny. It's called Spite and Malice, and it's from Hasbro from like the early 2000s. I was like, okay, it's probably just like some trick taking game, whatever. And so I started reading the rules as we were waiting, and it turns out it is very much not a trick taking game. In fact, what it is you're trying to play cards in combination of your hand and your draw pile and your storage piles. So your draw pile is a stack of 8 cards at the beginning of the game that are randomly dealt out to you, and they're all face down except for the top one, which is called the up card, and that is what you're trying to get rid of. And you're playing cards in the center of the table that range from the numbers 1 through 13, and you start by playing a 1. You must play it immediately. Then you play a 2 if you have one in your hand, and there's an available 1, and you just build up until you hit 13, in which the pile is discarded. There's more to it than that, but if at any time during your turn you can play your up card, then you want to do that to try and get rid of the cards in your stack, and the first to get rid of all the cards in your stack wins. And then at the end of your turn, you always put a card face up in front of you called a store pile, and you can have up to 4 of those, and you can also only play the top card of any of the store piles. But what that does is that removes cards from your hand, guaranteeing that every turn you pretty much get to draw cards. And it recycles the cards really well. But here's the spiteful thing, and this is why it's called Spite and Malice, is that you have some wild numbers. Mm-hmm. You can use those for most of the cards. You can't use it as a number 13, 1 or 2, or a 7. Okay. But every other number you can. But each one of those has an extra little ability. Like maybe I'll steal your top card and trade you with mine. Or maybe I'll discard a pile automatically. Or maybe I'll do this, and they're all pretty spiteful stuff. Literally is part of the game. But my favorite part, and what makes it really a mean game, is that the person who plays the 13 to end the pile discards it, draws a card off top of the deck, and sticks it in a draw pile of the player of their choice. Adding one more card that player has to get to. Oh, so man. It's a little bit of self-balancing because of that. Because of course you're going to go like, oh, well, like her brother, if my daughter gets the 13 card, which she did a lot, she would look over, it's like, well, dad's not doing very good, but brother's doing great. Have another card. Have another card. And it was, I mean, it was absolute shenanigans. It wasn't the slightest bit balanced, but it was unique enough. And I haven't really seen too much of that since then. And for being like nearly 20 years old, it was pretty fun. I enjoyed it quite a bit. Spite and Malice, I think it might still actually be in print in like different versions.
Yeah.
But yeah, Spite and Malice from Hasbro is super fun.
Sounds pretty interesting.
So let's get into today's topic. But before we do, we said this at the beginning of the episode. Daniel, we have a code word to give out.
Yep, and that is for one of these 2 copies of Hit Me. We are giving 2 copies away from Hit Me, and it's very biased on this podcast because of some person over here. Why is that?
That's because I designed this little thing. This is a fun press your luck party game from Thing 12. If you've ever played blackjack, it's kind of like that, except punching each other in the face. That's what this is. You are superheroes dueling it out in the city of Brawlopolis. Last person standing wins. Ridiculous powers. Press your luck. Silly fun. Hit Me. Go buy a copy if you don't win one during our podcast.
First off, continental USA, so we need to make sure we establish that. Yep. Continuous United States. Sorry Alaska, sorry Hawaii, sorry rest of the world.
Yep.
It's just cost effective. We're sending
we're
this
paying out of pocket.
Yeah, exactly. We're going to give away 2 copies. So 2 winners are going to be drawn. Mm-hmm. That's going to be at the end of the month. January 31st is the last day you can enter and give us code words. February 1st, we'll start working on drawing the names. Again, we are going to give a little bit of time to announce who won the things, to give them time to get back to us and say if they won them or not. We're also going to give the option, if they do win, if you want us to crack these sealed copies, to have the actual designer sign them for you.
Be happy to do so.
There it is there. There is many ways to enter. Why don't you explain to the people?
First off, there's on twitch.tv/everydayboardgames. If you follow us here and you get notified whenever we do a live episode, because that's where we primarily film this, then that gives you 1 ticket for free. There's also an option to subscribe to us, and that is financial, but that gives you an extra 3 tickets, and that helps us pay and keep our podcast running, pay for the hosting and whatnot. Yeah. Then also, go over to our YouTube channel, youtube.com/everydayboardgames. And I believe it is, right?
Yep.
Yeah, Everyday Board Games. And if you subscribe to us there, that is free. And it'll give you an extra ticket. And also, Instagram.com/everydayboardgames. That gets you an additional ticket by following us there, where we play some really simple, silly little posts from time to time. And also some of the stuff that we've been playing. Finally, each of the last 4 episodes, including this one and the previous 3, we have given a code word. If you haven't heard it, that's fine. You have a chance to go back and listen to it. We have until the end of this month, but you gotta listen to it, and then email us at everydayboardgames2020@gmail.com along with the code word from that episode. There's a different code word for each of those 4 episodes, and today our code word is Clue to You.
You want to tell the people why we decided on these clues?
Nope. No. So the code word for today, I also co-own a mobile escape room business called Clue to You. CLUE, the number 2, the letter U. Clue to You. Mobile escape rooms, mobile puzzlery. We bring the clues to you.
So we have that one.
Shameless self-promotion.
Some of the
today.
other ones had to deal with past game designs that you've done.
Yep.
Some past musical stuff that you used to do, as well as his other business outside the podcast. So It's all about him, his ego over here.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, and Mario Fanatics has actually played our pirate escape room and highly recommend it. Haven't done the briefcase one yet. You forgot to add the word yet.
Yeah.
Yeah, but our pirate one is pretty fun.
I've seen both. I've ran one of them, so...
If you're on the western half of Texas or Arizona and New Mexico, we might be able to work some deals out. Yeah. Definitely New Mexico. We could do anything in New Mexico.
Yeah, so that's the reason why we're doing this sort of stuff. But again, that's how you enter. Again, we are going to close the polling basically on the 31st of January. So the February 1st is when we're going to start processing to get the drawings done.
Yep.
Second off, we're going to have a possible bonus episode later in this month. That will not have a code word. We're just keeping the code words to the cycle.
Cool. All right, let's get into today's episode. I was excited for this one.
Yeah, you were. You were.
No, I was, because you and I both just recently got some Tiny Epic games in the mail, right? We got Tiny Epic Cthulhu, and we got Tiny Epic Game of Thrones.
I didn't get Game of Thrones.
Well, you didn't back that one?
No.
Oh, you gave it the stank eye and everything. Hold on. Now I gotta know. Wait, why?
We've discussed why. It's a little too late, and I don't want a Tiny Epic Game of Thrones. I got rid of the big Game of Thrones game I had.
I feel like this is totally different. This is like action dice selection, which is similar to Tiny Epic Galaxies, no less.
Yeah, that is true. I didn't want it. It was, 4 years too late? I had already watched the finale. It was 4 years too late.
I was hoping that one of the expansions would have because Tiny Epic games, Gamelin games, they put little like wooden screen printed like meeples and wooden pieces. I was hoping one would be like a Starbucks cup in it. Like just like as an homage. No, that would be rude. But
yeah, he'd probably lose that license if he did that.
That's true. They probably would, right? But yeah, we're gonna give recommendations for Tiny Epic Galaxies. Do you want to describe how it works, or do you want me to?
Tiny Epic Galaxies is kind of, we were talking about it a little bit on the top of the podcast, is kind of a bit of a 4X kind of game, distilled, very distilled. And what you're going to do this one is you're going to be rolling some dice to trigger some actions. What's neat about this game and what is the big hook of this game is you have a follow capability. So if someone triggers an action, if you have the politics to do so, you can follow that action as well, whether it's moving your ships on planets or moving them back to your space or basically trying to exploit for the resources. Or you get special abilities where you can tag. If you have certain planets that you've colonized, they give you special abilities. Or possibly trying to colonize a planet and beat your opponents to it, because it is a 21 point threshold, if I remember correctly.
Some of that, yep.
So it's the first one to hit 21 will hit the trigger at the end of the round. Then whoever has the highest score at the end of the game wins the Tiny Epic Galaxy game. It's fairly simple, very well produced for such a small game. This is really the one that started the Tiny Epic line and still one of my favorite Tiny Epic games.
Yeah, and now to be clear, it's not the very first Tiny Epic game, but it's the one that really put it on the map, right?
Tiny Epic Defenders?
Tiny Epic Kingdoms
yeah.
was first, and then I think Defenders, and then Galaxies was the third, and Galaxies was the first one to be featured on tabletop with Will Wheaton.
And that's why it got really popular, and it was the tabletop effect.
Exactly.
But it's a fantastic game. It's probably one of my favorites of the Tiny Epics. It is my second favorite right now. I really like Quest more, but...
that's right. Defenders is my personal favorite.
Yeah.
I really like cooperative.
Castle... basically the castle one, right?
Yeah, I mean, like, you have, like, the different locations, and, you know, they're slowly
You're literally
lighting them on fire. Yeah.
Yeah, I want to say Castle Panic, but there's a whole video game genre that's based on it. Yeah.
Tower Defense.
Tower Defense, there we go.
Yeah, pretty much, yeah. It's pretty good. But we're going to be giving you recommendations on that, so if you've never tried Tiny Epic Galaxies before, give it a try. They even made a version called Tiny Epic Blast Off, which is like a $20, like, introductory version of it. It's very inexpensive. It's worth giving a shot. It's a fun little engine building. You get
what do they call the little one?
Ultra tiny.
Yeah, I was gonna say there's an ultra tiny,
and it's in like a deck box. And it's like $9 or something like that. They're little screen printed cubes, which is the dice that you roll, which is absolutely ridiculous.
It is very ridiculous.
Yeah, but I mean, they made it inexpensive, and Mario Fanatics has the ultra. I do as well. I have a version of it.
You have all the Tiny Epics, don't you?
Yes, I own all of the base games. Yes.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Yeah, so I only own Ultra Tiny Epic Kingdoms, but every other Tiny Epic game I do own. Which great collection.
Yeah, so I don't even own Tiny Epic Galaxies. I have Quest, I have Dungeons, which I need to play, and I just recently got Cthulhu.
Okay, cool.
Those are the only ones I have. I don't need to collect them. You and Gamehead Geek both have them, so I'm just going to get the ones that interest me, really, that I want to get in my...
Yeah, that's fair. So if you've never played it before, hopefully these games will give you ideas. That if you like these games, this is why, and we'll explain why we're comparing them to it. And if you have played Tiny Epic Galaxies, this should expand your horizon and let you know which games you should check out next. So let's get into this first. We have our gamer criteria, 5 different categories, and we'll break it down a little bit more as we get into it. We're going to start with game immersion.
And when we're talking about game immersion, we're talking about, is the game fun to lose? Is there player interaction, whether you're getting into role-playing or table talk or just feeling like you're in that game, as well as those games that lend themselves to the memorable moments that make you stand up and shout across a game room. So the first game on my list is the biggest game on my list, but there is nothing better when it comes to this immersive aspect of it, because this is a game Tiny Epic can play in about an hour, hour and a half if you're playing like a full contingent, less than that at most times. But this game, 6 hours minimum.
Four and a
half hours minimum, and it's just, this is the best part for it, because when we're talking about that game immersion, when you're getting into the game. Is the game fun to lose? Yes, it's fantastic. Is there player interaction? Oh yes, there's a mess of it, and it does lend to those memorable moments. One of them being, oh my god, we've been playing this for 3 hours, and it doesn't feel like we've been playing this for 3 hours. And this is Twilight Imperium 4th Edition. So again, I mentioned it earlier. I was trying not to. I was originally trying not to put up big games. I wanted to still do the tiny footprint that Tiny Epic does.
I was about to say, you're going from like one of the smallest space games to one of the bigger ones.
But I'm just like, I want something that gives it the feel. And if you were like, I wish this was a little bit more, or a lot more for that matter, where I can get more of those Stellaris feelings and stuff like that. This is a perfect way for you to go into. From Tiny Epics to something bigger, and I really do enjoy it. You had a good time playing it when you finally got it played.
Great game.
It's fun. It is a massive game. This could have gone into like art and production as well, just because how well produced it is. I actually have something a little bit that works a little bit better. That was actually my hardest one, the do. But game immersion, Twilight Imperium 4th Edition, that really is 4X in a box.
Okay. The one I was recommending for game immersion is that the best part about Tiny Epic Galaxy is building that engine, because as you colonize or conquer the different planets, you're going to be getting them as extra abilities that you'll then be able to use. Whenever you roll a colony die, you get those abilities that are underneath your planet. So that engine building is really satisfying. I also like how you can ping off of other players too by following them. I'll talk a little bit more about that later on. But one of the big things that I really appreciate about it, and why I enjoy Tiny Epic Galaxy so much, is, and I know a lot of people disagree with this, I like the tiny epicness of it.
I hate it.
I like the fact that it's in like essentially a cassette tape sized box, and you have what feels like a big game in it. And my recommendation was one that felt like that as well, like, because the fact that you can carry it with you, that you have the same interaction, you have like a big game,
Twilight Imperium with me.
A big game feel in a small package that you could play at like a restaurant or like play at like a small place. I wanted that same kind of immersiveness, and so I settled with Star Realms for that. And because I feel like Star Realms, specifically the 4-player version, it's about the same footprint. You have that engine building, you have the space theme, you have the same. It's not super thematic either of them. And that's part of why I'm putting it in this category, is because I feel like even if you lose, you're still like, man, I still had a cool engine and I was just waiting for it to pop off and do it the right way. I felt like that's the same way. So there we go. Star Realms is my game immersion recommendation.
Yeah, and so I don't disagree with you. I thought about it too. I have a different game on my list.
Right.
All right, moving on to the coin.
I mean, obviously you have a different game on your list.
No,
a very different game.
No, there is a different. I'll talk to it when we're getting into it.
Cool.
Is it me or you?
That's me. The next one is art and production. And so again, G.A.M.E.R Games does a really great job of adding that theme into this tiny package. And they do what they can. So they don't tend to have boards. They tend to have like larger size mats that they place out for different locations. They don't tend to have like over the top productions, but the fact that they're cramming all those pieces into a small box is a really good production.
You forgot to describe what we're doing.
Art and production.
Yeah, I know.
Well, that's I'm getting to it. Hold on. But Tiny G.A.M.E.R Games stands by that. So going with the art, it is kind of generic sci-fi art, right? The Blast Off version I actually think is a little more charming because it's kind of like almost like a kid style artwork, but it's still really good. The pieces and components themselves normally are small miniaturized versions of things like meeples. The custom dice are really nice, and the card quality is always really good quality. And finally, graphic design is very clear what you're trying to do. Everything revolves around the 6 symbols that are on the dice themselves, so you pretty much know what you're doing. If you're rolling a colony die, you're doing a colony action. Simple as that. If you have a energy symbol, which is a lightning bolt, then you're doing that action. And it's very clear what they're doing. So I wanted a game that has that same essence. This is probably this is not necessarily in print. I think it's being reprinted. I don't know for sure, but I know you can find used copies fairly easy. And I'm just a champion of this game. It's called Eminent Domain. And I absolutely love Eminent Domain. The ships that are in it are cool little, like little plastic ships. The art is generic planet art. The same thing that's on the Tiny Epic Galaxies.
I'm going to stop you right here. This is also my art and production.
Is this really?
Yes.
Eminent Domain was your art and production?
Yes. Because the little spaceships.
Those spaceships are so fun.
And the very generic art.
And
this is why I was talking about, like, with Star Realms, I have a different deck builder on my list, so I didn't want to decide or tell you what it was going to be. And
I felt like they're different enough because this is in a big size box.
I know, but
it doesn't need to be, but it was.
Yeah. And then there is also another version of it, not a version of Eminent Domain, but a smaller, like, Battle Cruiser.
Yeah, it's like Microcosm.
Yeah, something like that.
And Battle Cruisers, too.
Yeah.
Battle Cruisers is a totally different game, but it's also really nifty, right? Yeah. But if you're going for a generic sci-fi art, cool looking spaceships that are similar to but legally distinct from all the trademarked ones. Mm-hmm. But just I say that in jest. Yes, it's generic art, but it's good for what it's doing, and it does a good job of like portraying what it's trying to do.
And then what you're talking about too is like with this one too, not just in the art and production, but the gameplay is very similar to Tiny Epic because other than it's a deck builder, but you still have that follow capability if you have those cards in your personal deck. If someone's doing like a colonization thing, and if you have those cards in your deck, you can play those cards to help you colonize as well. So it does have that same follow mechanic that everybody loves about Tiny Epic, and it does have that sci-fi, that space exploration, the colonization of space and exploiting and stuff like that. That gives you that same kind of itch with Tiny Epic does, and I agree with everything you were saying about this, especially those cool little
ships are awesome.
And so this was my art and production pick as well. This was the one I struggled and him and hot on because this can go into a lot of those categories and still give you that Tiny Epic feeling. Yes. And so I was like, where am I going to put this? It's going on my list, just where am I going to put it?
Which one exactly? Yep.
So moving on to meaningful choice.
Meaningful choice. Here we go.
In meaningful choice, we're talking about impacting of other players. Depth of strategy, tactics, or skills. In this case, more of the strategy tactics, because there is some skills to the game that I picked, but not a lot. And same thing with Tiny Epic. Do arbitrary choices in AP make an impact on the game? And this is in a negative way. Tiny Epic doesn't really have it too bad. No. The game that I picked does have a little bit of AP in here, but it's not too bad. I went with a game that gives you a little bit of that space exploration, a little bit about that colonization and stuff like that. Some abilities that you can get further on down the line. And that's because this is Tech Tree, the board game.
Oh, yeah.
Beyond the Sun. It does a lot of things that Tiny Epic does, just in a bigger footprint. Yep. You get to expand your abilities. You as you're doing it, you get more powerful and stuff like that. You're adding abilities to the tech tree for everybody to use. You have those little kind of dice, but they're not dice. They're just like little cubes, but you do roll them to get yourself certain actions. So it has those capabilities. I really do love this game. I think it's fantastic. And it has a lot of thinkiness that you have to... And this is why the AP does take a little bit in this game. It's just that you have to be smart on how you play this game. So I wanted something to give you a little bit more gravitas than Tiny Epic Galaxies does. And so I was like, Beyond the Sun has to go on here. Honestly, I couldn't put this one in art and production, even those little dice things are kind of nice. This is...
The cover is really pretty.
Yeah, that's about it. And that's saying something for Rio Grande games.
You know that they're remaking it too, right?
From what I heard, yeah. But this is interesting. I do have this.
I don't know if they're remaking it, but similar style game. Yeah.
But so Beyond the Sun was my pick for Meaningful Choice because it has all that. You're collecting resources to exploit planets and to build the tech tree out. You're playing to a certain amount of points. First person to hit those point thresholds finishes out the round. Fantastic game. I love Beyond the Sun.
Cool. The game I picked for Meaningful Choice. Now, so I previously had Eminent Domain and Star Realms. I am no longer talking about space games. Space is out because it had to match the, art and production and game immersion.
I have one more space game.
I don't have any more space games.
I have one more space game.
So, this one is one of my favorite little... So, to clarify why I put this game on here, it is essentially a card game. And what you're doing is you're building up these abilities, you're expanding your domain in it, And it's not Dominion.
Eminent domain, huh?
It's not eminent domain. But one of the best aspect I think about Tiny Epic Galaxies, and I think the reason what set it apart, is that follow action. If one player takes an action and you have the ability to follow it on your turn, you might just do that just so that way you can be like, yeah, that now the timing is right. I really want to follow this action. I really want to take the same steps that you just did. So I'm going to draw my step back one step, and I'm going to take the same action that you just played, so that way I can be involved in it. And I love that action selection style thing where you're engaged on other people's turns. So I picked a game that does that. I can give a slight recommendation based on this, but this was San Juan by Alea, and this is basically Puerto Rico the card game, kind of.
I thought it was Ravensburger, but
I might be wrong. Alea and Ravensburger
tend to intermix.
Yeah, exactly. But this San Juan is just absolutely brilliant. If you really like the space theme, you could do Race for the Galaxy. It does very similar stuff, but I prefer San Juan myself. And that's because one player chooses the action, they get a buff to that action, and then everybody else takes the action in general. So it has the built-in follow mechanism no matter what. Everyone gets the action that player chooses. It's just who gets the bonus, like being able like get one more card or build one fewer thing or get one buff onto whatever they're doing. And I really enjoy that. But then all of the cards that you're building in front of you are giving you these extra abilities, just like the planets that you settle. It has a very similar flavor.
What came first? Was it Puerto Rico or was it San Juan?
Puerto Rico.
Okay, so yeah, they got that follow action from Puerto Rico.
Yes. The action selection is specifically from
that is awesome. Yeah. I love that.
Yeah, exactly. And we just played like Puerto Rico last year, and we're just like, man.
Yeah.
We're like, we forgot how much we liked it. I need to bring San Juan again. Like, really.
Yeah, you do.
San Juan is just banging, right? It's so good how it works. And every time I play the game, I just enjoy it. The reason I didn't say Race for the Galaxy is because it's very uncolorblind friendly.
And the iconography. I have never played Race for the Galaxy just because I've been scared off by the iconography and the colorblindness.
It's really difficult to read.
I want them to reprint that game with better
visuals. It would be fine. And like I think a lot of people get put off from Race for the Galaxy just because of that. But San Juan is my pick, so if you are not colorblind like Daniel and I, you can get Race for the Galaxy and you'll get a similar flavor to it, especially if you want that space theme. Very fun game.
Nice. All right, moving to ease of play.
Ease of
Flip
play.
the coin.
Here we go. Coin of Doom. Telling us again, it's you.
All right, ease of play. We're talking about the simplicity and familiarity of the mechanism, the likelihood of it getting to the table, basically on mechanism or theme. Easy to learn, understand, or teach. And everything you said about your last pick is the reason why it is my pick as ease of play. It is San Juan, the card game.
Really?
Yeah.
Man, you've only played it once, though.
I love that game. So much so, I'm getting a copy for myself.
Really?
When they did the Awaken Realms, I don't know if you noticed it, when they did the Awaken Realms reprint of Puerto Rico, the real nice one like they did with the Castles of Burgundy, they also had an add-on where you can buy the new San Juan card game where
I have no idea.
Where it mixes it with the expansion, one of the expansions in it too.
No kidding.
Yeah, so
I hadn't the slightest clue on that.
I am getting a version of it relatively soon. That's why I put it in my recommendation. I try to put games that you can find, and I know you can find Eminent Domain.
Now I feel better because now you can find San Juan now.
Yeah, and it's actually going to have new art and stuff like that to it.
Cool.
So and it's going to be like the art from the new Puerto Rico.
Yep.
And so I'm looking forward to getting that one played. Again, like you were saying, the fall mechanism. I almost put Puerto Rico on here, and then I remembered San Juan.
Yep.
It's that small footprint, that the simplistic of it. And when we're talking about likelihood to get to the table based on the mechanism or theme, I just tell anybody in my game groups it's multi-use cards, and they're going to be in because of that. Multi-use cards is a fantastic mechanism that I wish more games used because
being able to discard cards
for your currency.
Oh, so good.
Yeah, or so good. I really want to save this card because this is going to be very powerful, but then I got to discard like 4 cards to put this building out in front of me. But then it's going to give me a really powerful action and stuff like that. So I
played a game recently that did that.
Stuff like that, yeah.
Yeah, I forgot which one it was. But
yeah, we had a really good time with it when we did play it. I really did enjoy it. It's so much so when they offered it on the add-on, I made sure to make sure it was in my cart and paid for it.
Yeah.
So, San Juan, the card game.
Cool. All right, my ease of play is a brand spanking new game. It came out just like a few months ago, and so big thing about how simple Tiny Epic Galaxy is it's a Yahtzee mechanism essentially. I mean, you don't take 3 rolls, but you do roll them out.
You can re-roll though.
You can re-roll. Yeah, you can re-roll as many times as you've built up that stat for it.
Mm-hmm.
But each die face is a different action. So after you're done with your re-rolling, you take actions for each of your die face. Take as many as you want, and sometimes that'll help you out. Sometimes that'll trigger things in the game. Sometimes that'll give you abilities. What I liked about that, and what I like about this game, is that all of those same things happen in this game. This is a Yahtzee-style game where each of the faces have a different action. This is the brand new game from G.A.M.E.R Games, Wrath of Fire Mountain, that does this. You either send one of your little villagers out to settle in either the cave or the hut. Or you can use the foot movements to move them around, or you can get eggs to get you a dinosaur that'll give you an ability, or you can send them out trying to get majorities, and you might roll the volcano, which will let you manipulate the board in a different way. Oh, it does some fun stuff.
Oh, yeah,
this is a duo game.
This was on my short list.
Yeah, this was on a duo game design from Phil Walker Harding and Eric Lang. And you can feel it. Like it's so
Here's the thing,
weird.
you could actually feel which design is there.
Yeah, which part is whose, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like, oh, the sliding mechanism and the Yahtzee thing. Yeah, that makes sense that's Phil Walker Harding.
Yeah.
But all
Area
these abilities.
control, yeah, and
hold
abilities.
hold on. Eric Lang, I see you there.
In the minis, there's actual minis in this game.
Minis in this.
They're mini minis.
Yep, and they're actually different too. Like each of the little like cave people that you're putting out and stuff, like they're all different. It's so fun. Wrath of Fire Mountain is like quickly like climbing already is like just so fun for me.
Yeah, it's a good game. I really do it. I need to get it played more. I don't take it over to my other game group because it's in a tin and I don't want to get it dinged in the game bag.
Yep.
So we'll see how it is. Luckily, I have the new one that has wheels, so I can put it at the very top.
There you go. There you go.
So,
I can't wait for you to play that with your group. I'm curious to see what they think.
Well, I like the game, so I don't care what they think. I'm keeping it. But I think they'll like it. They tend to like Phil Walker Harding games, except for one. My friend does not like the Yummy World one. It stresses her out for some reason.
And you say, I have no taste. Come on now. That game is hilarious.
It's hilarious. The artwork is a little but it's not a bad game. It's not a great game. It's more the middle row for me when it comes to Phil Walker Harding. Exactly. With that being said, we have one more recommendation for everybody. Replay value.
That's right. Replay value.
And what we're talking about replay value is the length and time and scaling well. As I mentioned, Tiny Epic Galaxies can go anywhere from 30 minutes to an hour and a half, depending on the number of players and new experiences and stuff like that. If you're an experienced player, it's going to go a lot quicker.
Yes.
Minimum number of plays for the full experience. This one, we're talking more like if it's like a legacy or something like that. If you play it once and already know how to play it the rest of the time, it's a little different where with this one and some other games and some of the recommendations we're going to give, they have different cards, so you're not going to see everything in the first playthrough. Mm-hmm. And the expandability, when we're talking about that, is like if there's an expansion, if it's been guaranteed by the publisher that there's going to be an expansion, and so that kind of stuff. And so the game I picked here, one of my favorite games of all time, is Terraforming Mars. I love that game, but I'm like, it just doesn't really feel right for Tiny Epic Galaxies. And then I remembered they have a card game.
Yep.
Terraforming Mars, Ares Expedition, which has apparently 9 expansions to it, or something like that. There is a lot. I was looking on BGG not too long ago.
Okay.
It relatively takes as much time as Tiny Epic Galaxies, especially if you know how to play it, or in the less player counts and stuff like that. It actually takes away a lot of the luck based on the dice rolls because it's card manipulation or card play. And what I like about it, it has that follow mechanism. Mm-hmm. Like we were talking about with San Juan and Puerto Rico, is like if I choose an action, I get to take it at its greatest effect, but then everybody else can still take that same action based on the little tiles that you're selecting.
Yep.
And so for me, this one fit right in that thing. It has a smaller table presence than Terraforming Mars. It plays quicker than Terraforming Mars. It plays around the same length as Tiny Epic Galaxies. So if you're into Tiny Epic Galaxies and Terraforming Mars, but you wanted something that maybe is the next step over Tiny Epic as well, but smaller and more pub friendly or convention friendly, then this is the perfect game for you to play at these sort of things, because It takes relatively the same amount of time. The teach is a bit of a bear when you're first playing it. But yeah, my pick is Terraforming Mars, Ares Expedition. Range of 1 to 4. I think Tiny Epic's 1 to 5. So there is solo play in this one too for those who want to do it. And there is expansions. So there is not a card that is exactly the same in that game.
That's true.
Just like in Terraforming Mars. So have at it. Terraforming Mars, Ares Expedition.
And this one was my recommendation that I'm actually really proud of, because when I thought of this one, I was like, wait a minute, for replay value, I think this makes a lot of sense. First off, Tiny Epic Galaxies has one expansion that's the same size as the base box, has quite a bit of content in it. What?
No, just the Gameland games. It makes me. We were just talking about it yesterday.
Oh, no. Well, I'm going to bring that up here in a moment, because that is also part of the reason why I put this on here, because so minimum number of plays, it's around the same player count.
I think I know what it is now that when you mentioned that. Is it behind me?
Oh, jeez. Yeah, pretty much. But we'll see if it's the same behind you. I mean, I'm pretty sure it probably is. Yeah, probably. All right, I think you figured it out. All right, yeah, okay. All right, well, we'll see. So anyway, so this game, expandability, this also has only one expansion for it, but adds almost a full box worth of content into that expansion. Plays the same number of players, pretty much. It's same number of time frame.
Has smart dice play.
It has smart dice play, yes. Don't get ahead of me now. Because really smart dice play. And one of the things that I really like about the Tiny Epic games as a whole is I like the ability, and I know like this can also be ease of play, like the Get to the Table. There's also be art and production because of how small it is that they cram, a medium sized Euro game and something that's denser and more, it gives you more gameplay into a small package. Now, granted, it's a tight package, but so does this company do it. This is Red Cathedral, and this is the one you thought of as soon. Yeah. Dude, when I thought of this, I was like, man, De.V.R. is the only other company right now that is pound for pound packing more game into a box than Gameland is, right? Yeah. They both are like, they're full. They are like the most game that you can put in a box that size.
You know what's funny about that? Is that when they finally did go to a normal box size with Rock Hard, you can actually fit everything in the box, and there's room for an expansion if they ever decide to do it.
Yeah, but I don't think there's that much room in Rock Hard. You must be really efficient in how you're packing it, because man, when I play Rock Hard,
upside down.
No, I do that too. But it's still like, I mean, yeah, I have like a little bit of wiggle room, but I don't think I could put a full like box expansion.
I can't even put a full box expansion in.
Oh no, not Red Cathedral, no way.
Not even that. The newest one too, the White Castle.
Oh yeah, sure. No, yeah, De.V.R. They put the smallest packaging that you can for that game. Same with Gameland. I mean, everything that they do, it's like, man, it's gonna fit in the box. If you get an expansion, it's staying in that box. I'm sorry.
We were just talking about it yesterday when I was bringing my Tiny Epic Cthulhu in here. I'm like, just give me slightly bigger if I can put everything in here.
So that's one thing that, again, this is gonna be another point that you're gonna argue later on. But the Tiny Epic Game of Thrones, if you got the minis for like Cersei and Daenerys and all that stuff, it comes in a separate tuck box that's in a plastic tray, and it doesn't take up that much room, but I can't guarantee it'll fit in either of the expansion boxes, so I think I have to do it. I'm pretty sure I can fit it in the expansion box though, but either way, it's just the minis that's included. So yeah, Tiny Epic Galaxies, they did such a great job. De.V.R. Red's Cathedral, I think pound for pound, it's the same replay value.
Honestly, I thought about this for replay value too.
Yeah, because it makes sense. So,
and then it's right next to the game that I actually came up with.
So you and I were in so much agreement for this, except for TI4.
Yeah,
missed the mark on that one.
No, I didn't. It's exactly what Tiny Epic Galaxies is, just big.
No,
it's not tiny. There is a follow action in there too.
No, I know. I agree. I get why you're saying it. I'm just saying, like, that's so much more of a rich theme, is what I'm saying.
That's why I went in game immersion.
I want to thank you for listening to today's episode. Remember, email us at everydayboardgames2020@gmail.com. In the subject line, put contest. In the body, put our code word today, clue 2U, the number 2, the letter U. And you can enter in for a free copy of Hit Me. And also be sure to put a way to contact you. Also follow us on Instagram.com/everydayboardgames, and that will give you an extra ticket and entry as well. No purchase required.
All video re-uploads and reviews are found on youtube.com at Everyday Board Games. And if you like what we do, there are 3 things you can do to help us grow on that platform. Subscribe if you're not, which gives you a ticket. Like the video and comment down below and tell us your thoughts on the subject.
Also, we stream all of our episodes live at twitch.tv/everydayboardgames, and feel free to join in on the conversation. Following us there does also give you a ticket as well, and subscribing us, helping us support us. That is currently the only way you could directly send us money is by supporting us through twitch.tv/everydayboardgames.
And all audio versions can be found on most podcast platforms under Everyday Board Games Podcast. This includes Spotify, Amazon Music, Podbean, and Apple.
So we want to thank you so much for tuning in. As always, I've been your host, Daniel.
And I've been your host, Daniel.
And we want to thank you for listening to Everyday Board Games.
And remember, every day is a good day for board gaming.